Welcome back to Building the Pride. I am your host, Drew, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Mike. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Drew. How about yourself?
Well, I'm doing really, really well. and But it's the saddest day. It's the saddest cast of the year because this is as long as it will be before the next NFL draft. Even
Yeah.
though I was so bad at it, like
It was a really
historically
fun
bad.
night, and I really felt bad.
It was historically bad for me. So,
It was.
well, we can just hope that I get better over the next 51 weeks, you know?
I mean, ultimately, what it tells us is nobody really kind of knows what the hell these people are gonna do, right? Like, I don't know, who are they gonna take? You think it's gonna be this guy, and then there were times where all of us picked the same guy, and we were wrong. Like it was unanimous. This is the way that they're gonna do it. They're gonna take Tyler Warren at 10 or whatever, and then all of a sudden it's a freaking guard or something. You're like, wait, what? Where did this come from? So the draft is always interesting.
Next year, I am bringing a dartboard and darts, and I'm just going to throw it at the pick, and everyone will see it, and they'll be like, "Oh, the dart's still on the board," so we know Drew picked
Yeah.
Arch
Well, so I
Manning.
think I think what we have to do is we have to do one that is Velcro tipped.
Yeah, that's
Because I don't
fine.
want you ruining my walls when you
I'm
fix the
good at darts.
board.
I'm real solid at darts. I've been playing a long time. So, well, tonight we are going to talk about the draft. We're going to talk
Right.
primarily about the Lions draft. But as you've just put up the banner, we're going to kick things off with news and notes from around the NFL draft edition. So, is there somewhere you want to start tonight? Like, what was the most interesting part of the draft for you this year? Any part of it? It can be anything.
Well, so before I answer that question, which I
Sure.
think is a really good question, and it buys me a little bit of time to think about it,
Mm.
is the only pre-draft news and notes or non-draft related news and notes that I can think of is Aaron Rodgers still doesn't have a team.
Yeah.
So we can only hope that this is for good.
I would love to have that be reality. I would love
Yes.
Aaron Rodgers to slip quietly away to his dark cabin where he can do as many drugs and continue to disappoint his family and women everywhere. So that would be wonderful for me. Just,
Yeah.
but I
And
am
most of the NFL fandom.
it, in all seriousness. John Hirsch. Do we know a guy called John Hirsch?
We know a John. Yeah.
I don't think no. But like, what would have to happen for a team to be like, we'll bring in Aaron? Is it just someone gets hurt, or does he have to check all the boxes now in order to convince a roster to take him on?
I think it's a really good question. I think it's what has to happen. I think you have to have all right. I think that you've got to be a contender and your starter went down and you don't have a quality backup. I think um, I would almost say the Rams are almost in that category, except they got Jimmy Garoppolo, and he is a capable starter. He's a good backup. He's a better than most backup, right? He could potentially start on bad teams. So they might not quite be in that category, um, but Baltimore, I don't know what their backup situation is, but if Lamar gets hurt, like what's going on? What do they do? Is that something where they go, okay, well, we got a damn good team. Lamar's hurt, and Aaron Rodgers is still hanging out there. So I think that's the scenario that Aaron Rodgers gets back on the field.
Gotcha. All right. Seems like a pretty straightforward one to me. So, what was your most interesting part of the draft?
Most interesting. I think that the storylines around the quarterbacks, the Shador Sanders, the Dylan Gabriel, the Jackson Dart, like all of those guys, none of them other than Cam Ward went where we thought they were going to go. And every time a quarterback was picked and the names, that last name was not Sanders, everybody's like, yet another one? What's going on here? So I thought that was super intriguing. So that was kind of probably like my biggest, I guess, most interesting storyline is society is like, oh, watch people fall from grace kind of thing. You saw that with like Tiger Woods when he had his
Mm-hmm.
situation and all that kind of stuff. So those are the things that are intriguing to people. So I do feel like that's one of those. Not that it's a fall from grace, but it's a fall from expectation or hype. And so when that happens, it's always intriguing. So that's probably mine. What about yours?
I was very surprised at how high the interior offensive lineman went. Tyler Booker
Yep.
went at 12 to Dallas, and I believe that Gray Zabel went at 18 to Seattle, if I'm not
Yep.
wrong.
Hayden got that pick right. he got uh, Gray Zabel.
Yeah, can we not talk about Hayden? That little bitch. No, he did pretty well. I mean, he
Yeah.
did. I was impressed. Seems like he had a good time. He said he's definitely coming back next year, so I'm happy about that.
Yep.
But
It was a good time.
yeah,
Good time was had by most.
by I mean, I had fun. It just wasn't as
Yeah.
much fun as I could have had.
Right. I think
Yeah.
the last one that I won, I split with Brian and maybe Hayden. Um,
Hmm.
but I think the money that I won were the dollars that I put in for you.
Yeah, I owe you for next year. I'm gonna have to cover
Yeah.
your first 4 picks next year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm looking
So
at the picks. I got 6 of the first 7 right. I should have gotten Hunter at 2, but I'm like, I don't know. Carter's so good, and he is. So I
he's
got that
good.
one wrong, but I got the other 7 right. And then I went on a losing spree. Um, I
Mhm.
really thought Jade Barron would go higher than he did.
I think
I
all the
thought,
cornerbacks were.
yeah,
I guess that's the. I guess that's a better way to say what interests me in the draft is that there were position groups that went higher and lower than I thought, and it was interesting to see which position groups rose and fell.
yeah.
Uh, so I
And to
mean,
your
and
point, Zabel was one of the guys that were like, "Oh, he might be there. We should take him if he's there at 28," and he
yeah,
went at 18.
yeah,
You're like,
way
and he
higher.
was the second offensive lineman taken.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was an interesting storyline as well.
Do we want to talk about Shadur?
We might as well. Everybody else is.
So this is how I heard. This is how I heard it described. He didn't have a physical trait good enough to warrant drafting him inside the top 100, and he had enough. Let's call it lack of intangibles that I think
I was going to
he,
call it baggage.
yeah, he he alienated the teams that were in a position to draft him for need.
Yeah,
So he basically waited until the 5th round because someone had to deem it worthy. Okay, at this pick, this player, despite the whatever, is worth it for us to take him, and it just lasts until pick 150 or whatever it was. So
yeah, yeah. I've seen a lot of anonymous assistant GM, types of quotes. One I read that he came into it was the worst in-person interview that they had ever done. He came in wearing headphones around his neck and they were blaring, so it was disrupting the room. Whereas interrupting the room is hard to talk to. He was arrogant. Like there's a lot of that kind of like I just know I'm coming in here being all badass, and it's kind of a turnoff. In those types of interviews, take it seriously, kind of thing. So I think that didn't help his cause either. So, and I think that unless you are an actual elite prospect with elite traits, you really do need to be baggage free, whether that is your dad or some sort of personality, baggage when it comes to like arrogance and cock. Like arrogance and cockiness is fine, right? Deion Sanders did that, and he backed it up. But I think a lot of that you don't find that as much on the quarterback side because the leadership requirements to be a quarterback are a little bit different. You need to be confident in because you want your guys to follow you. But I think there's a difference between confidence and arrogance, and I think he is probably learning what that line is.
Yeah, so I saw 3 different reports, one from Matthew Berry over at NBC, one from Adam Schefter, and one from the New York Times that all basically said the same thing, is that he was unprepared, not... I did 1,000 mock draft. I know nothing. Well, good news, Joseph. I know less than you. So, unprepared, entitled was a word that I heard in each report. And when he was called out on his particular shortcomings, especially by Brian Daboll of the Giants, he popped back at the coach.
Jeez, yeah.
And Daboll apparently Daboll likes a confrontational like style in like his interviews to gauge how people react and work under pressure.
Yeah.
And like a quarterback like Will Howard, who I don't remember where Will went, but he aced that process with Daboll. But Shador apparently didn't like being criticized. And I don't know how Deion Sanders coaches his teams, but like if you told me that Deion Sanders was really tough on his own kid or Travis Hunter, I'd be real surprised. So I think that there's if he's going to be successful, if Shador Sanders is going to be successful, I think it's going to be how quickly does his maturation process take place. And maybe it's just being away from his dad or being away from the campus at Colorado. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like it's big leagues, right? Like this is everything you've worked for since you were a kid type of thing.
Yep.
And there are people scouts and draftniks who believe that he's talented enough to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, one of the 32. And the Browns have almost nothing invested in him, like literally almost nothing.
Yeah.
And if he's still a headache, you're getting rid of a 5th round pick. So there's no opportunity cost here. Like they don't have a ton invested around the line. They don't have to keep him around because they've invested so much in him.
Well, I do find their quarterback room interesting because he was not the first quarterback that they drafted.
Yeah. So they had Pickett and they had Joe Flacco, the immortal one, on the roster. And then they drafted Dylan Gabriel and they drafted Shador Sanders. And one of them's not on the week 1 roster because you can't. So who is it? I have a guess.
Who do you think it's going to be?
I think Flacco's the cut.
You think so?
But, I mean, Kenny Pickett's not even out of his rookie contract yet. No, they have 3 rookie contract quarterbacks on the roster. I mean, my thinking is that wouldn't you want a veteran in that room to like...
That's why I'm like, you really think it's going to be Flacco?
This is how we do shit here, And it's like, but I also think Kenny Pickett's likely to be their day 1 starter. So, which isn't saying a much, but like, right. So that leaves.
But you're not going to keep 4 quarterbacks,
right? So that leaves Shador or Gabriel being cut, and like, I just don't. I think that if you go into camp or whatever, I think right off the bat, I think Dylan Gabriel is probably a front runner for the 3rd spot.
Do you think Gabriel's good enough to start over Pickett?
I don't know. I mean, like when Dylan Gabriel coming into this year in college was drawing comparisons to what Bo Nix had done previously. They have a ton of starting experience in college, like somewhere between like 45 and 60 games each. And not Dylan Gabriel's problem is he's not very big, right? Otherwise, I mean, if he was 3 inches taller and 15 pounds heavier, he probably would have gone on day one.
Right.
You know, but he doesn't have any overwhelming physical tools. Like what he's bringing to the table is like a level head and like knows how to play the position well, but like his ceiling is, I don't think, anywhere near as high as Shedeur Sanders if Sanders put everything together. So I don't know. Like this is Cleveland. So like Cleveland did.
It could be anything.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm happy about for Cleveland is how they approached the draft. Like they traded down, they got a good player, they got a one next year when, you know, I don't know that Arch Manning comes out next year, but you know, if he wins the Heisman and they win the national championship, like what else do you do?
Yeah.
So
what else do you have left to prove in college, right?
You might as well get to the NFL when you're young. But you know, he's got 3 years of eligibility remaining, and he's one of the highest paid NIL players in college football. So I mean, like, there's no rush.
Right.
You know, if I was a god at the University of Texas and getting paid millions of dollars, I might want to stay in college too. College seems pretty fun when you're attractive, successful, and have a lot of money. So
and have a name.
Yeah, it all adds up. I mean, that all adds up. So I don't know what the Browns are going to do, but I like what they did.
Yeah, I was also intrigued by some of the trades. Everybody, this is the first year in like 14 years, everybody had a first round pick, and then the Rams went and traded out. But they got a first next year. So you know, part of me goes, okay, cool. So next year they're gonna have 2 first round picks, one of which is the Atlanta Falcons, which is probably going to be a top 15 pick or maybe around 15. Is that an opportunity for them to package that up and move up and get a quarterback that's going to sit behind Stafford for a year to finish his career out there? Or maybe even just replace him right after this year, depending on salary cap and health and whether Stafford even wants to play, you know, a year after this. I think they set themselves up really well for that possibility next year. What other trades intrigued you?
So I was a fan of the Cleveland Browns trade. I mean, you move down from 2, you stay in the top 5, you get the one from next year, and like everything that you said about LA, I like more because of the trade that Cleveland made. Like Cleveland probably in the running for the number 1 overall pick by themselves next year. Jacksonville, they took Travis Hunter. I liked their draft. Is Travis Hunter the first true two-way player that we've probably seen in our lifetimes? Like, is he going to improve their win total by 3 wins? You know, because if not, Jacksonville's picking in the top 10 as well.
Right.
You know, so I mean, like, I like how hard they had to bargain, I guess, for that pick, that trade down. I don't know. Some people were saying that they thought Mason Graham as a prospect was close to what Abdul Carter was. And I'm like, okay, I watched every Michigan game he's ever played.
Yeah.
And like, I appreciate the fuck out of what Mason Graham has done for Michigan football, like stopping Alabama in the Rose Bowl on the fourth and goal in overtime. That was his tackle that sealed it. Like he beat Ohio State 3 years in a row. Like, I will always appreciate that. I don't think he's at the level of a prospect of an Abdul Carter. Is he a good football player? Yeah, I think he's good. And when you put him next to Myles Garrett, put anybody next to Myles Garrett, and they're going to look better than they are without being next to Myles Garrett. But like,
right,
you know, like that's a force multiplier. Interior defensive line's been something that Cleveland has not had on the roster. So like, trade down, got a good player. Got a 1 next year and additional. They had 2 picks at the top of the second round. Didn't particularly like them depending on who was on the board and considering their O-line is shit. But like, I liked the players that they picked at those spots. And this is the problem with this year's draft for me, both for the Lions and in like larger scale. I like all the players. I'm just not excited about it at all. I'm just not. I keep looking at the draft and what the Lions did from I'll read an article and I'll try and look at it from what that perspective is. And I'll read another article and I'll look at it from that perspective, and I'll listen to a podcast and I'll watch a YouTube stream. And I'm like, what's going on? I mean, like, why can't I seem to get excited about this draft? And I'm not.
Yeah. Not just our draft, but all of them, right? Like this was the most underwhelming class of draft picks that I've seen in a while. I mean, there's a couple like studs, right? I think Abdul Carter's a stud. I think Travis Hunter's a stud. I think there's some of those, but man, it falls off after that, and then it's like super disappointing. It was a really weak class,
and like I think my problem with trying to pick the selections this year was that there was so little consensus within position groups as to who was the number 1, number 2, number 3 player in those groups. Yeah. It was like you can just Jenga tower any of these position groups and get somebody's version as to who the top 3, 4, 5 guys are. And you just, every time you have to pick one of those guys, blind, I don't know what the New Orleans Saints value, in a running back or whatever it is. So, but I like the players. So really odd draft.
I think one of the most surprising things that during that night when the Giants went to pick at 25, well, I should say the Texans went to pick at 25, and then all of a sudden you get this like a trade has happened. The New York Giants are trading up into the first round. We're like, oh, this has to be Sanders because you only trade up to get a quarterback.
Right.
And as it turns out, we were half right. You only trade up to get a quarterback. It just happened to be Jackson Dart. And I think all of us got that one wrong because we just assumed that it would be Sanders because, that's what the hype told us. So I thought that was really interesting. The Texans ended up getting... so the Giants got 25 overall. They picked Jackson Dart. The Texans received second round, number 34. They ended up with Jaden Higgins. Third round pick number 99, which was traded to the Raiders. And the 26th third round pick. So they got some... Jaden Higgins I think he's going to be a good wide receiver. And they picked up a third round pick next year as well. And then, again, traded that number 99 to the Raiders, who picked Charles Grant, offensive tackle.
Yeah. Houston ended up drafting most of Iowa State's wide receiver core, which I thought was kind of funny. So there were just like little things like that sprinkled throughout the draft that I was like, oh, really? Like,
did you think James Pierce was worth trading up for?
No, absolutely not. So here's my thing. Like, what they are saying with that trade up is that they think that he should have gone higher in the draft without them picking him. And he was still on the board.
And he wasn't going to be there at 46.
Right. And so they are giving up their first round pick next year to get him this year. And I'm like, okay. And so here's my problem with both of the players that they took, Jalen Walker and James Pierce. Jalen Walker, in the grand tradition of Georgia edge rushers, looks like a great edge rusher, and they didn't play him at edge rusher. They asked him to do something else. So he might go into the edge room in Atlanta and get all the coaching to be a good edge and a pass rusher and take to it like fish to water and be amazing. It could happen. He hasn't done that yet. We don't know if he can do that.
Yeah.
But you're betting on that. And then you gave up what you're looking at here in order to take James Pierce, who is a different kind of edge rusher than Jalen Walker. He's more of your bendy, fast, dip your shoulder, get around the tackle edge. And he had problems, or he at least had red flags that were like, we don't know how much this guy cares. He's not putting in the work. Like his teammates don't really haven't given him glowing report cards, I think is a nice way of putting it. When they were, background checking James Pierce. And Tennessee has maybe the greatest rotation of edge players and defensive linemen in the country. Like they legitimately play almost 2 entire defensive lines. So he has 450 passing snaps.
Yeah. So he's
last
fresh.
year. Yeah. So like, how is it going to be when he has to play almost
800 snaps?
That? Yeah, 800 snaps, 700, 800 snaps. Like, and if he's not a worker, how is he going to be in shape to do that kind of stuff? So they have to be convinced that stuff isn't true, or he said something that in the interview that made them think like that's behind him, he's ready to buckle down or whatever. And like, if those two guys hit their ceilings, they've received they've drafted excellent players.
Right.
But I think that this is more like, if one of the two of these guys works out, we're fucking gold. So from that point of view, I hated the trade up just in general, based upon how much they paid, and I liked it even less based upon who they picked.
Yeah.
So I don't like this trade for Atlanta.
Oh yeah, for Atlanta. Yeah. Yeah,
the Rams were good job, Los Angeles.
Yes, Les Snead did his thing. Especially if they're trying to stockpile for next year to potentially move up and get a quarterback to replace Stafford if he doesn't come back for another year, or to sit for a year while he finishes out his contract or something. What were your thoughts about, this was a one spot move up, right? Philadelphia Eagles were drafting 32, Kansas City's at 31, and they move up one spot, which I found super interesting because I don't think the Chiefs were going to draft Jahad Campbell.
So,
but they were probably trying to get in front of somebody else, maybe. But like, who's trading up to draft, and to give up a 5th round isn't a huge deal. But like, I don't know, this was weird to me.
So this is what I've heard about this trade. So let's just understand that it's maybe not 100% accurate. The speculation has been that Philadelphia was basically for like 2 hours trying to trade up all the way up to like 22 to go get Campbell, and no one was willing to trade. Which is weird because I think that we had a trade in there somewhere, but no one was willing to take the. Yeah, exactly. Right. So, so they're not able to get in front of whatever team didn't take Campbell that they were worried about. So now you're at 32, you call up the Chiefs. Here's what I've heard about this pick. The conversation between Howie Roseman and whoever is the GM of the Kansas City Chiefs went something like this. The Chiefs asked offense or defense to indicate which side of the ball the Eagles were targeting when they came up. And apparently teams do not indicate to their trade partners who they're moving up for.
Right.
It's not done. So when Philadelphia said defense, Kansas City was like, green light.
Yeah.
Because we want Simmons.
We're taking Josh Simmons next time. Like, I'm taking him now, or I'll take him next pick, but have a 5th rounder for free.
Yeah. And like, as soon as Kansas City greenlit that, Philadelphia should have shut it down. Because if you know that they're going to agree to let you move up to take a defensive player, they're not going to take one, or are unlikely to, right? So then if they're taking an offensive player, you're free and clear to sit at 32 and just take him at your regular spot.
Right.
And unless they still made the trade.
Unless they're afraid someone's going to try to go up and get Campbell. if that's what they're afraid of, that makes sense, right? It's a 5th-round pick, number 164. They got it from the Lions in a previous trade, right? Through the Browns, all that kind of stuff. It's almost free for the Eagles to make sure they got their guy. So I get why. Hey, you know what? It saves us the option or the fear of the Chiefs ended up trading with, I don't know, name your team that wanted to get Jahad Campbell. Now we've got it. We don't have to worry about it. And all that cost me was a 5th-round pick. I can sleep easy.
Sure.
It has to be that, right? You were just afraid somebody was going to trade with them if it wasn't you.
Well, we know the deal got done. So, I mean,
Yep.
there's a lot of evidence there to support what you just said, right? So there's that. So Joseph says, I want to push back on something. He says, the rest of the league doesn't want to do deals with the Eagles or the Lions. And if so, it will cost you. The rest of the league would, in my opinion, the rest of the league is lining up to do deals with Detroit. Because they
know we do them.
That's one. And they know that we're a team that's addicted to moving up. And on top of that, if you're the team trading down, you're the team that gets to assess the tax. And at this point, if I was the 31 other GMs, I know that Brad Holmes is willing to pay a little bit extra to go get quote unquote his guys.
Yeah.
So I get to tax the Lions twice. I get to tax them because they're the team that wants to come up, and I get to tax them twice a little bit because it's Brad Holmes, who doesn't overpay a ton, but, and we're going to talk about this later, he will and has, in my opinion, severely overpaid a couple of times to go up and get a guy. And agree or disagree, like just the math would say these are not 1-to-1 ratios using the trade value charts that we have access to as non-personnel in the building, right? So, trades don't work. We don't know that trades immediately work out or are good or bad or whatever, but we're talking about a process here. So I don't think they even needed a linebacker. Well, I mean, it's, he's just drafting good young players, and they might not see him as a linebacker. They might see him as an edge rusher. So conversion might be on the way. But I mean, those are the things that I thought were interesting about the draft. I mean, I could talk about this for literally hours and have. So if we want to move to the Lions, this is a good segue.
Yeah, let's do it. I guess let me pop the little banner on there. We got our ticker. So the Lions held at 28. I was a little surprised they didn't move up with the way that the board was kind of falling. There was a lot of eek. I bet you probably said 10 times, if you said it once, oh, that was a guy that I was hoping that would fall to the Lions. Mm-hmm. So as we're going through that night, I'm like, all right, when's Brad going to make a move? Because these guys that would be great Lions are falling off the board left and right. And we never did. We stood at 8 and grabbed Tyleik Williams, the interior defensive lineman. That was projected to be a mid-second round, but obviously we're picking late in the second round. So I think we moved up to get our guy. What were your thoughts about our first-round draft choice?
So this is what I'm going to say before I talk about all of these picks. I like the players.
Okay.
Just know that.
Yep.
This is the draft that has proven to me beyond the shadow of a doubt that Brad Holmes will never draft for need. He will never draft for need. Not a gun to his head. He will not do it. This is the draft that proved to me that I feel like it's a soapbox that he's almost standing on to be like, no, I will not draft for need. Even if it's a perceived need, even if the need appears weak, I will not draft. I will draft. You cannot make me do it. Yeah, okay. So that's where I was. So this has now been proven to me. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, this has been proven to me. like
Yeah, he
Tyreek
even made a
Williams.
comment before the draft about that as well.
Yeah.
About you can't chase needs. Sometimes you just have to get the best player that's out there because your needs change, free agency, injuries. Like you just can't chase team needs every time. Which I wasn't sure if that was one of his ways of like smoke screening and like I'm gonna go get the team need, or if he was like actually being straight up. And it sounds like he was being straight up.
Yes. I have no doubt whatsoever that Brad Holmes means 100% of the shit that he says.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Here's the summation of like my feelings about what the Lions did. Through 3 rounds, looking at who they selected and who was still on the board and their penchant for trading up to go target their guys, they had no edges on their list. None. 0. None. It just wasn't a position I think that graded high for them at any point in the draft at all. And that surprises me greatly.
There were a lot of edges available.
That's
it was a deep draft for edges.
I mean, even if you're like, those are the skinny little guys and those are the great big sons of bitches, like, even if you just get rid of all the little skinny guys, like an Ezraku, who I would have loved for them to take at 28. I thought that was going to be the pick. But I still thought round 2, round 3, I would have thought, yep, this is the moment where they find like round 2. I was like, are they going to trade up for Landon Jackson, or will they just take Landon Jackson at their pick? And then they traded up, and I was like, oh, is this for Landon Jackson? Oh no, it's not. Oh, I like the player they picked. I like the player,
right?
But you liked him more than you did Landon Jackson. You liked him more than you did this other guy. Yeah. Really? Okay.
Ezraku was the most mocked to us over and over and over. And I was a little surprised that we didn't go that route.
It's okay. So let's talk about the route they went. So I put together like a little breakdown of the players and kind of what went into each of them. So allow me. I got a little practice at this, and I'm still not wonderful.
Yeah, and Kenny 49er says Shanahan doesn't care what anyone else thinks. He will reach like an MFer.
It's true. And Brad, I think you can put Brad Holmes in that bucket. Like, he's got his guys. He's marching to the beat of his own drum. Oh, it's worked out.
But is it a reach if that's the guy that they're in love with? Like this is the guy that's going to fit what we do, and we're going to hit on it. It's only a reach if you don't hit, right?
Correct. So, and that's what the 2022 class or 2023 class showed us, right? The Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell class is that, like, these are quote unquote all reaches except Branch, but like they all hit. So no harm, no foul. Okay, so we have Tyreek Williams. We picked him at 28. He's an interior defensive lineman. He's projected to be this upcoming season, like a backup who gets starter level snaps, right? Get your guy. That's right, Kenny. So his measurements at the combine, he was 6'2" and 7/8", 334 pounds with 32-inch arms. Mike, is it possible Brad had an agreement with Za'Darius, including his? It's entirely possible. I don't know how shit works behind closed doors. I mean, Za'Darius is still out there on IG, like still repping Lions gear. I mean, you don't do that. I mean, you got to know people are going to notice that shit.
Same with Trey Hendrickson.
Right.
Like, is that something that they might be trying to figure out as well?
Well, the price might come down now, right? I mean, now that teams have players and every team just got more leverage, right? So some of the pros from like PFF and Eric Schlitt over at Pride of Detroit on Tyreek Williams, he can play both the nose and the 3 technique. He has an explosive first step. He has shown improved hand use over his time at Ohio State. Cons, he pops up and loses leverage occasionally. He struggles against combo blocks, which, I mean, you got two guys blocking you. Okay. He needs to develop pass rush moves. Well, he's 22 years old, so like, there's time. He didn't have an RAS score per Math Bomb because he didn't participate in combine workouts. And he was the consensus from NFL Mock Draft Database 44th player on the board. So what I heard from Eric Schlitt at Pride of Detroit was the player that he most reminded Eric of was Aleem McNeil. Asked to play nose tackle in college, moved to 3 technique in the NFL. I think what you'll see this year is that he and Levi Muzurike will primarily split 3 tech snaps. Thanks, Kenny. Have a good night, man. And then next year in 2026, he will be the primary nose tackle if DJ Reader is not retained. That's my guess. So of all the picks, I get it. I get why the Lions would want a guy like this. I just didn't think that they would take him at 28. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I thought there was an outside chance that we might go with a guard. Sure. Yeah, we need a defensive line, but I was pretty certain it was going to be an edge because that is, everybody identifies that as our number one need. So I was expecting an edge, but like, hey, well, I could see scenarios where like a guy like Gray Zabel's there or something like that. And we went something like guard instead. Wasn't expecting a defensive tackle, but seems like a good dude. Aleem McNeil's hurt. We need something there. DJ Reader's getting older. I feel like this is one of those times where you're drafting for not just the present, but the present and the future. It's like present 1.5. And Donkey Kong says, people haven't realized by now, it's Brad's personal BPA at all times. He does not look at Mel Kiper's mocks or anybody else's. Brad legit targets guys and gets them. Yeah.
But we don't get to know what that is. So we only have access to Mel Kiper and PFF and CBS. Oh, shit, I've fucked it up. Sorry.
That's all right. I've got... we can bounce back and forth, but this
was...
Sure,
go ahead.
Remove other... I got to remove that and then add. So this was something that you sent me earlier. I don't know if you want to talk about this. If we want to switch back and forth, or if we want to talk about this first or second.
So this is from a guy who posts a lot about the Lions. I don't exactly know what his role is, but he is like us in the sense that he pays more attention to the Lions than anybody else. So he put this list together. So the grit index is something that Eric Schlitt at Pride of Detroit put together, and what it's trying to do is quantify what grit means for the Detroit Lions. Rumor has the Bills were going to take Williams, Tyleek Williams, sure. It's probable. I mean, the Jets have come out and said they were going to take Gibbs a couple years ago in round 1 if he got to their pick. So it's probably true. I believe that it's true.
I will say the Bills got a good dude though. I told Adam this as
Hairston.
Well. Yeah, he he was there like at the draft when everybody got called. He gave them a high five and congratulated them every single time, like a pro. And then I guess when he got on the phone with the GM and they said, "Hey, we're gonna draft you," he asked to be put on speaker. So he could speak to the whole room, including the owner and everybody all at once, saying, "Hey, I appreciate you guys doing this. I'm not gonna let you down." And I thought that's pretty cool. I think they've got a good person there, and I'll be curious to see if he's just as good of a player.
Yeah, I mean that's just it, right? Like if you hit on these players, your process doesn't matter, right? And so I guess that's the thing that I find myself trying to push back on so much. Is that like when I look at what the Eagles are doing, it's so much process driven, and it works. It's been proven to work. It might take
Yeah.
longer than what Lions fans want, but it works. So, and the thing about Brad's process that I'm struggling with a lot is I will never know what it is. So it's unpredictable. So,
Yeah.
and that sucks for me because I like this process is fun.
It's super interesting.
Yeah, it's super interesting, and I will never understand why someone who is really good at it does it the way that he does it because he can't tell everybody.
Right.
All right, do you want to move on to the second round?
Yeah, let's do it. Do you want to talk about this or pop over to yours?
No, let's keep it here for a minute. Like
Okay.
this is I hate to say it, but like this is so much more visually appealing than the one that I put together in Microsoft Excel. So they trade up 3 spots. Let me see if I can. The Lions got pick 57 and pick 230. They gave up pick 60 and pick 130 to Denver in order to draft Tate Ratledge. So I like Tate Ratledge as a player.
Yeah.
He's not an edge. So, I mean, like.
It's true.
Yeah. So I wrote down some things because, the draft is fluid and it's a process. So in round 2, there were a couple of edge players that were still on the board that I thought the Lions could trade up to get or see how things went and maybe they would get to them. So the Colts took JT Tuimoloau from OSU, who I thought was. We'll talk about the grid index in just a second, Joseph. Okay, I promise. And they were half the round above the Lions. So like that, he wasn't really available to them. And then the Panthers took Nick Skirton. So I thought both of those guys, so the Panthers took Nick Skirton and the Panthers picked at the end of near the end of the round. I'm not sure if they traded up for him or not, but like those were guys who were available that you could go up and get if they were guys that were on your board, like your guys, right? Like maybe those were targets.
Right.
Instead, they hopped up a couple of picks in order to take Tate Ratledge, who I think solidifies your right guard position for 5 years at a minimum, right? Probably longer. But really like the player. His grit index, which I'll talk about here in a second, was tier 1 elite per Pride of Detroit. If you notice the relative athletic scores, hey, Michael, the relative athletic scores for the Lions players are high for where they were taken. Like Ahmad Hassanine, Dan Jackson, love it. Those are all high scores based upon the fact that you're taking them in round 6, round 7.
Right.
And then the guys they took day 2, and Miles Frazier have elite relative athletic scores. So the Lions draft athletes, not debatable. No longer debatable. Go back and look at the guys they've taken. Penei Sewell, Aiden Hutchinson, Jahmyr Gibbs. These guys are athletes. So
9.96 is crazy for a guard.
Right. So they took Tate Ratledge, who's he remind of them of Kevin Zeitler. Interesting. Now you have junior baby Kevin Zeitler that can be on your team for 5 years. Birch was there too, buddy. He was available in round 3 for a minute. Savion Jones had some personality issues with coaches. He was not an easy coach, from what I've heard. So he might not have been on the Lions draftable board. I don't know. But like, once again, love Tate Ratledge. No problem love having Tate Ratledge on the team. It's just that I'm not excited about it because like here was right guard the problem. I don't think that it was.
The problem, no. A problem, a thing that we wanted to target at some point, yeah.
At some point, right. Like, and that's the part of it that I'm struggling with. Is like it was the point that you determined to deal with it was right now.
Yeah.
So,
well, I feel like he was mocked to us quite a bit in the second round, but at that same
yeah.
point, we took an edge in the first round, right?
Mm-hmm.
In those kind of mocks.
Well, so Lucky's over here says right guard is a problem right now with no Zeitler. Let me push back. 2 years ago, you had Graham Glasgow play right guard, and his PFF grade was like 19 points higher than it was this last year. So, is there any issue with like if you? I don't know how it's a problem. If it's like, let's play Glasgow at his more preferred position and have Mahogany like as the pencil starter going at least heading into camp as the left guard. Is that does not sound like an issue to me. Now, is Ratledge somebody that's probably going to lock down that position and you don't have to think about it at all for 5 years? Yep, that's true. But like you can also pick almost any player in round 2 and have him play a position on almost any roster and be like, yep, that position's locked down now for 5 years because we took this guy, this kid, whatever it is. So I don't agree that Glasgow was the worst guard in the NFL last year. Okay, that's
he wasn't. He
yes.
did not have his best year last year.
He did not. He, however, can play all 5 positions on the field, and he is Frank Ragnow's primary backup. So, sure, I get it. So am I. So, my issue with the pick in the second round is it a Lions kind of player? Yep. Did Brad clearly want him on the team? Sure. Did you have a above replacement level player playing guard at either spot next year if you go Glasgow Graham? No. Yeah, it was
right.
Mahogany played a game and a half last year, and they were excellent games. And if you, is it a small sample size? Absolutely. By who, Michael? So that's my problem. Is it's like, okay, like the time that you've given Christian Mahogany to play actual meaningful NFL snaps, he was great. He was great. He had one game that was in the 90s per PFF. Like it was an elite grade, like not just really, really good. It was elite. Like it would be hard to find a better player in a week to week than he played in that game, and like Glasgow is not wonderful, but like, and he had a down year last year, but like, can you not say the same thing about Taylor Decker? I mean, he's just been really good and consistent for a long time. So
Glasgow was number 55 on the guard per PFF. This is the overall on the guard.
Right. So
which,
like I'm going to default
not great, but
right. I'm going to default to PFF, right? And so if 55 is your worst graded offensive lineman and you have Penei Sewell, Frank Ragnow, and Taylor Decker as the stalwarts of that line, I'm living with it.
Yeah.
They all can't be 90s. So, but that appears to be what Detroit is going for, is that they want elite offensive line play right now.
Well, I mean, I think everybody wants that, right? Everybody wants, 85 to 90 graded players on all 22 starting positions. You can't afford that, but you do your best to try.
And I don't dislike the process. Like if you're going to draft, if you're going to invest money in an offensive line, the Lions have clearly said both tackle spots in center.
Yeah.
And now they are drafting interior offensive linemen. They drafted Mahogany, who was projected to be a 3rd round pick. He slipped to the 6th round because his legs aren't the same length or something. And
interesting.
It's an interesting weird thing that he has, but like he's really good. He was good at Boston College. He was good in the sample size he was given as a rookie late in the season. He got a late start in the season because he had mononucleosis and had to recover from it. Okay. I mean, like, that's fine. You know, they don't let you play with mononucleosis. I've had mononucleosis. They wouldn't let me play sports because if you take a shot wrong, your spleen can explode and you can bleed out. So
it's less than ideal.
Right. You don't want that. So same thing happened to Mahogany. And once he got the green light, he was good, you know? So like I would pencil him in at the top of the depth chart, you know, and you have guys now beyond that who have either played snaps in the NFL who are not great. You know, Coyote Iwashika, for example. You know, Natani Moody, who is still on the roster. Michael Neese. You know, these are backup offensive linemen the Lions have had on the roster now almost the entire time that Brad has been the GM. They are his guys in essence. So what this draft has said to me is that those guys are on their way out because you're not going to keep 12 linemen.
Well, that was one of the things I wanted to talk about was as we look at these guys that we got, how does that change our roster as far as where do we see that? You know, which of these guys are starters? Which of these guys are back? How are they displacing existing guys on our team? And then how much do they make us better because of that? They're on our team.
So the way that I would shake out interior offensive line, so no one's displacing Ragnow, Sewell, or Decker. They're right. Locked in. But the interior offensive line, I think, shakes out to be something like by the time week 1 happens, Ratledge will be the right guard.
Mm-hmm.
I think Miles Frazier, who we will talk about in a little bit, will be his backup. He is also primarily a right guard. This is the other thing that I thought was weird, is that Mahogany, Ratledge, and Frazier are all right guards. You know? And like even Glasgow wants to be played at right guard. That's where he's been better. Is, you know, next between Sewell and Ragnow, that's kind of where I'd want to be.
But I mean, do they then switch him to the left side? Because I mean, if I recall correctly, Sewell was a left tackle
at Oregon
in college, right? And then they moved him to the right.
Right.
In his first 3 games, you know, he was good, but you're like, okay, he's getting used to the right side, and then boom, he becomes like amazing. So do we do something similar with Ratledge or Frazier?
I don't think that Frazier is going to be a tackle. Like the problem with Frazier, quote unquote problem, is that he has unideal length in his arms. So like the pros and cons, like from the scouting reports I read on Miles Frazier, was he's an elite pass blocker. Above average athleticism, he remains calm in different sets. He has solid footwork and balance. Those are all the pros. Cons, he has average length. He struggles to adjust to certain kind of stunts that were run on him and needs to work on proper angles in the run game. He's 6'5" and 5'8", 317 pounds, and has 32 plus inch arms. But like when people get into his chest, he struggles. So the prevailing thought is that he is not going to be a tackle. And like, if he is going to be a tackle, let's say for a second that he was going to be played as a tackle. If he's tackle 3, then goodbye Dan Skipper, goodbye Giovanni Manu, because those are the current tackle 3 starter and the projected developmental tackle 3.
Okay.
So if you're drafting Miles Frazier to be tackle 3, you're immediately putting him ahead of 2 other guys on the roster. And I don't think that they're going to do that. So I think that it's more likely that he is going to be an interior. How are you tackle 5 if they bring you in as the next tackle when Sewell and Decker are on the field? I don't know how
Yeah.
I don't know how we're getting from I don't know how we're determining who should be 3 and 5.
I think,
So
yeah.
could Frazier be the center of the future? So Dan Campbell in one of his press conferences after the draft did say that both Ratledge and Frazier would be receiving cross training at center. So they are going to explore that. That's a good call, Joseph. So it's possible. Like the Lions have cross trained virtually every player that they have drafted on the offensive line outside of Sewell. You know, because it's like, oh, here, why don't you just be an all pro right tackle forever? Sounds good. We're good with that.
I like that. All pro forever
So
just is always a winner.
yeah, he played. Yeah, Skip should have never had to come in and start for Decker when hurt, but like, why?
Just because he's not good enough. Like he was not good.
Well, I
We
think
just
now
wish
we're
we had
getting
someone better than him, and we didn't.
okay. So like, how good do the Lions have to be with their backups on the offensive line? Because I don't know who's the best backup left tackle in the NFL. I mean, can anyone name who that is?
No.
Right, but like
But
I get it. Like when a starter goes down, you don't want to lose much because then it's like the next guy up, and you want that guy to be proficient. But like,
sure, but we also have probably the least mobile starting quarterback in the NFL. Our offensive line has to be elite for
yeah, I
him
agree.
to do the things it needs to do. So, yeah, like we need to make sure that if Decker goes down, we have somebody competent there so we can keep moving the way that we want to move. And Skipper was not particularly competent there.
So how much are you willing to invest in your backup left tackle?
I mean, I wouldn't go get a starter that that quality of a dude, but there's other people. There has to be someone better than Skipper out there, and I think that's what they're saying is like Skipper's not that guy. So if we spend a draft pick to get that guy or get a guy that could fill in as that guy, it's not a bad idea.
So I mean, sure, but like, here's what I'm hearing is that the Lions effectively need to have two almost complete starting offensive lines in order for us, the viewer, to feel comfortable with the depth there. And what I'm thinking is there's no team in the NFL who's ever had that. You know, like
No, and I don't think you need two complete starting offensive line quality groups of people, but your three. I mean, you don't need two almost starting quality tackles. You just need someone that is better than terrible. You need a good backup, at least one that can play left or right. And we don't even have one that's a good one. We've got a bad one.
well,
So,
I disagree.
okay.
I mean,
I don't know.
what makes you think that he's bad?
His play, like I was as smart ass as that sounds, like his PFF grades were terrible. His play was he got beaten
Go
pretty
look
regularly.
go look up the game that he had to fill in for Decker last year. He actually had to play a couple complete games, I think, and it's not coming up for me for some reason when I do it. Am I not logged in?
I'll check
But
it out.
like, so I mean, I just don't understand where the idea that Dan Skipper is an awful tackle is coming from. So he's enormous. I mean, that's one thing. Okay, here we go. Pass blocking. So
He had a 91 grade, but he only had 5 snaps.
Well, so I'm looking at his games from last year.
Yep,
so
same.
He played 33 snaps at Houston. He had a 39.5 grade. He had 35 snaps against Chicago. He had a 61 grade. He had 45 snaps against Green Bay. He had a 74 grade. Overall, for last year, he played 145 pass sets. He had a 57.6 grade. Is he great? No. Is he a backup? Yeah, he's...
And he's a bad backup is all we're saying. Where he's not a good backup. I mean, because I'm looking at this too. Like his overall grades, he's 55.2. His pass block is 57.6.
He gave up one sack last year.
Let's see where that's on here.
We're looking at different.
Yeah, I'm looking at PFF.
Yeah, so am I. What would you think that I would be looking at?
Well,
giving up one sack is a terrible thing for a backup.
I just didn't see where you found the sack.
It's because we're looking at different grades. I'm in his pass blocking grades. And I think that you're just looking at his overalls.
Yeah.
Yeah, go to pass blocking. Or that. Go to that.
Well, I was just curious.
Like, I mean, what do you guys... I mean, what's the... So what's the... Okay, so Lutchies, what do you want? You want to cut Dan Skipper, and you want to invest what in the next Dan Skipper? Because
at this point it's too late because we've already gone through the draft.
No. Just tell me what the solution was to Dan Skipper, who's terrible. Well, he's 6'11" or some shit. He's a fucking giant. Like, if you put this dude out in front of the army back in like Bible times or whatever, he kills everyone in the other army. Like, he's that fucking guy. Like, I'm not saying the dude is great, but I'm just saying he's not awful. And like everything that I'm looking at here bears that out, including watching him play. You don't think I watched the games? You know, like, I don't think that he's bad. I don't think that he's bad when he had to fill in at left tackle. I don't think he's bad when he's the third tackle on the field. He's enormous.
Yeah.
Like, what are people remembering here? Is that like he came in Dallas 2 years ago and that they got a shitty call and that like it's his problem for not reporting? Is this the hangover that we're talking about?
No. So interestingly, I think it's the opposite. I think he got a lot of love for that, and the touchdown that we got this year, right? We rectified that by putting him in on a jumbo set, and he got the touchdown this past year. And Skipper finally got the touchdown, and he becomes this fan favorite, mostly because of we got screwed.
Right.
We got screwed in Dallas. We're upset. Not his fault. Blah blah blah. Skipper. But he wasn't good. I didn't think he was good at all. Like, he wasn't terrible. Is he the best, or is he the worst backup tackle in the league? Probably not.
Probably not.
But I would say he's on the bottom half of that.
Sure, which is why he got a 1-year deal to remain on the roster and has had for the last couple of years. Like,
right. I'm just saying, like, there's a way that we can get an upgrade from a bad backup to a middle to upper backup. That's what we want to try to do. To your point, how do you do that? Well, you can draft somebody, but we chose not to, or we can find somebody cheap in free agency, which we also chose not to do.
Right.
So we kind of are this is where we're at. So we don't really, we know what we're at. So we've got Skipper.
We are talking about a guy who on average is going to play less than 5 snaps a game.
Yes.
Right. And so the complaint is that if the left tackle gets hurt, he's not up to it. Right. That's the complaint.
Right.
So can we go through the rest of the team now and address that for every other position? And like if Penei Sewell gets hurt, Corby Sorsdal comes in. Right? Because that's who the backup is. So do we need to go out and get a right tackle to address the fact that Corby Sorsdal is not up to it? What about left guard? Is Coyote Awashika has played snaps in games.
Or
like
our
Dan
guards
Skipper.
were not great even as the starters. So
Kevin Zeitler wasn't good.
No, our left guard, our right guard, Zeitler played great.
Right. And so what the Lions did was they took Glasgow, who had like a grade in the 70s, I think the low 70s at right guard, and they moved him to left because they signed Zeitler, and Zeitler was great. Right?
Yeah, you
So
just didn't make the transition as well.
Correct. So, I mean, like, so, and then Glasgow had to play snaps at left tackle. He had to back up Ragnow at certain points last year. And when that happened, Awoshika came in because for the first half of the season, Mahogany wasn't able to go. And you literally had like Sorsdal that would come into play, or who knows, some practice squad guy.
Yeah.
So we didn't have a good left guard situation or a good backup to that situation, right?
Yeah.
So now it is improved. Like, I don't know where the third tackle, Jacob Burnley is back. The third tackle, like, it falls on the to-do list for the Detroit Lions. It wasn't this draft. It wasn't last one.
I don't think it's necessarily on the to-do list, and I'm not sure where we got onto like this is a thing that we have to attack.
I don't know. Like the chat, Lutchies is talking about it in the chat. You seem to agree with him. And it's just like, to me, it's like...
I agree that Dan Skipper's not a good backup. He is a bottom half of the backup group. And if we can get to the middle or the top half of that, that would be my preference. I'm not saying that we necessarily need to we need to attack this as a critical problem to solve.
Well, but I don't think that Brad Holmes looks at it in the terms of critical problems. Like, to me, that sounds like you have to draft for need. And I don't even think that when you have something like, oh, Marcus Davenport, who got hurt for the, I don't know, however, X year in a row.
Right.
And he played 4 games or something last year. That's who we're going with again at edge. And it's like, oh, I think that maybe the starter's a problem there. Plus depth behind that starter appears to be a little bit light. And so I would say that would be a situation of greater importance than tackle 3, tackle 5, whatever we're talking about here. And he didn't address it in free agency or the draft.
Yeah.
So he must think that we can go out week 1 and it's fine. And so when I look at tackle 3, tackle 5, you did derail things, you jerk. I think that he looks at tackle 3, I'm fine with Dan Skipper lining up there.
Right. I think it's
whatever.
clear that he's fine with that, right? We didn't like you said, we didn't attack it in free agency, we didn't draft. I think he's fine with that. So I'm mostly going to be curious about Mahogany and his growth from last year to this year. And is he going to actually be our left guard of the future? Is he improving enough to do that? I think Rutledge will step in and do that. I think he's that good. Mahogany was a project right from the start. No one thought he was going to start day one, right?
No.
So I think is that project on schedule is what I'm really interested in seeing with the line this year.
So to get back to where we were before Lutchies bombed us, I think that Rutledge will be the starting right guard. Miles Frazier will be his backup, and there will be a camp battle between Mahogany and Glasgow for left guard. And whoever wins there is the starter, and then the other guy is the backup. But Graham Glasgow, let's be real quick. Graham Glasgow is going nowhere on this roster. He's
too versatile.
Correct. So he is at worst your backup center. And he is at worst your backup to literally every other position on the roster, on the offensive line. So he's not going anywhere, whether he scores low on PFF or whatever. He is the finger in the dike of the sinking ship. He's, oh, okay, we sprung a leak here. Okay, Glasgow, he's got a finger in that hole. He's gonna prevent that leak from happening. But I do agree with, I think that there were things that I wanted to see addressed on the roster that simply weren't in any kind of roster building this offseason at all. So Brad didn't address that more either. He must be fine with Davenport and believe that Barnes will contribute there. I don't get it. I don't see it. I'm not in the facility. Okay, this is the guy I really want to talk about. Isaac Tesla. They trade up 32 picks.
Excuse me. I didn't get the mute button in time. Sorry, everybody.
Both of our third rounders next year to do it. To take developmental Tim Patrick. I like the kid.
Yeah. This is the interesting thing. Brad Holmes, on 97.1 The Ticket said Isaac was his favorite wide receiver in the entire draft class.
If that's true,
and that gets me going. What did he see? Like, what did he see about him that intrigued him more than Ted McMillan and some of these other guys that went way higher?
Mike, you're gonna have to vamp for me for a few minutes.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, I think we needed a Tim Patrick replacement. There's going to be a cheaper Tim Patrick, and that's fine. I think we needed some depth. And the interesting thing is, like, our primary receiver obviously is Amon-Ra St. Brown, right? So he's going to get the lion's share of the snaps. Our secondary target is going to be Jameson Williams. He did not get traded. Didn't sound like it was even on the table from everything that I've heard about the draft. He's our number 2 target. Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs are targets 3 and 4, depending on probably the set and the scheme. So we're really looking at what is our target 5, right? Our pass catcher number 5. And Tim Patrick had been that guy. And I think Tesla, he is going to be that guy now. So I think he is going to surprise people, because I watched some of his film, because I'd never really heard of him before the draft. A little bit as I was kind of prepping for the draft and doing mocks and stuff, but never really watched his film. He's pretty impressive. I was very intrigued by what he could do, and he was pumped to come to the Lions. So Danny says I think he liked him so much because he had 1 drop total in college or something crazy like that. I mean, if that's the case, that doesn't surprise me. People being able to, wide receivers that always catch the ball, pretty high on the list of things that what I want my wide receiver to do is consistently catch that ball.
Yeah, so the scouting reports that I cobbled together on Tesla was great size, slightly above average speed, does not drop the ball.
Yeah.
6'3" and 5/8, 214 pounds, 10-inch hands. He's got big hands.
Jesus.
So
he's got hands like that.
Yeah. So here's the thing. This guy looks like developmental Tim Patrick. So Tim Patrick's on the roster this year. This upcoming season, this guy's probably wide receiver 5. Something like St. Brown, Patrick, Williams, Khalif Raymond, and then him.
Oh, wide receiver 5.
Yeah. Wide receiver 5.
I was talking about like 5. Target number 5, because you're gonna have St. Brown, Jamo, Laporta, and Gibbs as your top 4 targets, and he at best is going to be target number 5 if he replaces Tim Patrick.
Right. Watch a little bit of this kid play on like the draft highlight videos that they were running. He's from Michigan.
Yep.
Bloomington Hills, I believe. No one knows who the quarterback of Arkansas is. And like, that's one of the problems, I think, is like, he didn't have great quarterback play at Arkansas. And did that limit his production? Because that's one of the things that they knocked him for, was his production in college. So like, that's obviously going to get better. Like, for whenever I think about Jared Goff, I do think that he's better than the starting quarterback of Arkansas. Right. So,
and if not, we made a $50 million mistake.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that he's better than the.
Yeah.
So I anticipate his production will go up, especially since height, speed, hands, they're all good, right? And like Detroit's not going to take a guy at the wide receiver position unless he's willing to like put his nose in there for blocking or whatever. And so this guy's probably going to be a good special teamer and like see the field some amount in certain sets. Who knows? You know, I like the player. I cannot stand the trade. I cannot stand it. So the trade was 102, so the last pick in the third round, and both of Detroit's third round picks next year. I cannot abide it.
Here we go.
So
a little bit there for you because I know you're going to ask.
See, you're getting so good at this. Just took 2.5 years. So like Detroit got a couple of 6th round picks back. Fine, whatever. Gross. But like they gave up they traded 3 third round picks for this kid. And when I look at some of the other guys they have taken in the third round or on day 2 or could have used to trade up, you know, for other guys to target, like this guy is not just to me, this says this guy is not just developmental Tim Patrick. To me, this says this guy is going. We are intending that for the next 4 years, this guy is going to be an integral part of our offense. So they're going to give him year 1. Then Tim's going to come off the roster, and for this time next year, and then this guy will be a starter. It's at some. Do
you think Tim Patrick even makes the roster?
Yes, I do.
What about Cleve Raymond then?
Yes, he will be on the roster this year, but they restructured his deal. He has no guaranteed money, and he becomes a free agent after this season. So the wide receiver room could look wildly different next year because Patrick, Raymond, possibly Jamison Williams, who they picked up his 5th-year option this last week. Along with Hutch, which now, you know, the one team in the NFL who has worse salary cap situation in 2026 than Detroit does currently?
Dallas?
Nope. Try one more time. It's a habitual offender.
The Saints.
That's right. So
again, I thought they were getting their shit together.
They were, but I mean, this is years they're going to have to dig out their way out of this hole. But like, if you go to over the cap right now and you look at 2026 cap space, the Lions are over the cap by something like $20 million. So
you know that a restructure is going to happen for Goff. Because if I remember right, Goff's like $69 million in 26. So
and you can restructure 40 of
that. Yeah.
So they can get under the cap lickety split if they restructure half of what you're able to restructure him for next year. But that just gets you back to zero.
Yeah.
You know, so I do think it's interesting to note they took a year they did re-sign Kirby Joseph, but like they basically took a year off. They went Goff, St. Brown, McNeil, Sewell 2 years ago. This year they went Kirby Joseph. Next year is for sure Aiden Hutchinson. And then who knows else?
Michael says we could carry $40 million over from this year if Brad doesn't spend anymore.
So 7 or 8 of that's going to be this draft class.
Yep.
And then they are going to do what they always do, which is to make the practice squad an extension of the roster.
Yep.
And that usually eats up almost another, it ate up 10 last year because of all the injuries. So like, who knows? But that's going to eat up another
5 to 8
a number of millions of dollars, you know, that kind of thing. So like, I agree with what the principle of what Michael's saying here is that there is going to be carryover for the Lions on their cap, which is why I think they didn't do much in free agency at all, especially this year, is because they wanted a larger carryover. So, you know, the cap goes up $15-20 million again. You get the carryover, you restructure Goff or somebody else, Decker, and you're right back in the green, right? But now we're getting to the point where the easy decisions on money are gone. So are they going to be able to keep? I think that they can sign Aiden to an extension, and I think they can sign their 2023 guys to extensions.
JMO?
No, not JMO. So they can extend Hutch. He's 22. Yeah. And I think they can extend Gibbs, Campbell, Laporta, and Branch. And I think that's the core, and that's it. And then now the core is locked into a point where you have to effectively say, we're going to draft this guy, or we're going to extend him, but we have to let this guy go.
Yeah.
So which is a problem that I had with the way that the last two classes have been handled by Brad, is that these constant trade ups, while they go and they get our guys, right? And those guys have overwhelmingly worked out.
Good.
Right. You are going to have to take a breath 1 year and just let the draft come to you and restock a bunch of positions with cheap rookie contracts.
Right.
Or you treat your team like the Eagles and the Saints do, and you kick the can down the road, and you're just playing that game for as long as you can play it. The Eagles do a way better job of it than the Saints do. But
you think?
But the Eagles will trade either for, like, they traded for AJ Brown, they traded a mid-round pick for a mid-first round pick for AJ Brown. They obviously it will be aggressive to trade up for players that they want, but largely they allow the draft to come to them and they pick their spots. Right. And so, but Brad, I think one of the reasons why Brad and Dan Campbell are so good together is they're both unbelievably aggressive in completing their jobs. So at some point, like for Brad at least, not Dan, I think that you have to stop the aggression. And the trade, the reason I'm terrified of this trade is because this reminds me so much of Broderick Martin. This reminds me, it's in the same round. Yeah. They paid a bunch to go get it, and he didn't work. He has not so far worked out. And the reason why I think that he hasn't worked out is they signed Roy Lopez in the offseason. They drafted Tyleek Williams in the round 1 to play the same position as Broderick Martin. So could Broderick Martin be a decent depth nose tackle? Yeah, but how many teams need a third nose tackle? And that's a third round pick that you traded up for, and the opportunity cost of doing that, I think is going to be felt in the cap itself.
Yeah, at some point, especially if you don't hit.
Right. Okay, so once again, I like TeSlaa. I'm interested to see what he brings to the offense, especially in year 2. Once again, terrified of the edge position. I know they're capped. Yeah. I mean, check out. That's the thing. This is the path that the Lions are on. So, okay, so now there's 101 picks between when the Lions took TeSlaa and when they draft next, and they had to trade up to do it. So the trade for Frazier was the Lions got pick 171. They gave up pick 182 and 228. So arguably the best trade they had all night. They even come out ahead on some of the trade charts with this pick. So they actually got more value in trades trading up than they did on some of their other trades during the night. So this is the one where I'm kind of like, okay, great. So you take Miles Frazier. He is a pass blocking right guard, or that's where at least he's projected to play in the NFL. And really athletic. What is the Miles Frazier, above average athleticism, remains calm. Oh, we already did this. He is 6'5" and 5'8", 317 pounds, 32 inch arms and change. So he was the consensus 116th player on NFL Mock Draft Database's consensus big board. They got him at 171. That's excellent value. And this is everything I've ever said about where you should take a guard in the NFL.
Right.
This is
Mid-round.
Christian Mahogany all over again. A really athletic pass-blocking guard that fell in the draft for what? Because his arms aren't half an inch longer? Fuck, who cares? Not the Lions. So, I mean, like, now you have gone out and you have, I mean, like, if the Lions went into next season and their starting guards were Christian Mahogany and Miles Frazier, I think people would be like, oh, Brad, an encore of a performance. Yes, sir, indeed, to industry. You know, like, I think
and
that
we got Ratledge, too.
Right. So, like, here's the thing. You have Ratledge. So what's the need for Frazier?
Is it a hedging the bets?
So, like, I think this is just clearly depth.
Yeah.
This is just a clear, timeline's the same, super cheap. We don't want this problem. So here's what I think. Glasgow's like 33. I think very clearly a declining player.
Yep.
Do we know about Christian Mahogany? Probably not. So we're going to let Graham go probably after this year because he's $7 million against the cap. And then we can have a battle between Mahogany and Frazier for left guard and then have one quality backup and we save money. That's what this is.
Yeah.
And
I mean, we have to depth.
And
we need depth.
Right.
So.
Did we need depth? I mean, here's my thing. Last year, offensive line's not a problem. You have to replace Kevin Zeitler. That's probably not possible to do. The guy was like the third best guard in the league last year. He was excellent as a $6 million signing. He was wonderful. You're not replacing that. You can get close, but you're probably not replacing him. 1 for 1.
Right.
Okay, they're very clearly trying. But the issue last year was the defense fell apart. And I like Tyleik Williams. But, I mean,
and
you re-sign Derek Barnes, you sign DJ Reed to replace Carlton Davis. I look at that as a 1-to-1. I mean, like, did the defense get any better? That's my problem. And that was, to me, such the issue.
Or deeper.
Right.
I think I'm more worried about the deeper than better. Because I think once we get our starters back, you know, we were a top 5 defense when all of our starters were there. So the question is, did we improve our depth enough on the defensive side of the ball? We took 2 guys, Hassanainen and Dan Jackson. Both are gritty. Both are, you know, decent players, but like, I think they're clearly depth, which you're taking depth in the 6th and 7th rounds anyway. You don't expect starters to appear there. So the question is he going to be better than the other edges that we've got? Is he better than Davenport? Like, who is he going to displace on the roster? Because if you're drafting these players and they're not going to displace anybody on the roster, even if it's for backup purposes or backup to the backup purposes, why did we spend that asset, right?
Correct.
So,
right.
Who is he going to displace?
So I did a little Lions depth chart post-draft. Does it look a lot like what Eric Schlitt over at Pride of Detroit has? Sure, I subscribe to his Patreon. So, I mean, like, you know, so, I mean, there's that. So here's what he has / what I thought.
Right.
You have Aiden Hutchinson on one side. That's for all the Zadarius Smith talk I have, he is backup Aiden Hutchinson. The only reason that he was on the team at all was because they had no depth behind what Aiden Hutchinson does.
Yeah.
So, like, I hear people being like, resign Zadarius, and I'm like, he's just going to sit behind Aiden Hutchinson, assuming that he's healthy. Yeah, I know, Danny. We'll talk about that in a second. So he doesn't do what Marcus Davenport does, and they didn't go and get another Marcus Davenport or another
Or a
Zadarius
better
Smith.
Marcus.
You know, I mean, like, I like the kid. I think the kid is a Detroit Lion through and through. He's played football for like 5 years.
Did you see him on the phone with
Yeah.
like, I will die on the field for you if you need me to, coach?
I believe him.
Yeah.
I believe him.
Yeah.
And if you need people to die on the field, you should not be coaching football. I mean, like, life is more important. But like,
yeah,
I get what he means. Like,
yeah.
And he has the height, weight, speed to be Marcus Davenport. So I have the player profile of him as he is 6'2" and 3/8 and 267 pounds. He has 32 plus inch arms. He was the consensus 241st player on the board, and the Lions took him at 196. So about 45 picks before people guessed he would go. So, I mean, that doesn't mean much. Pros: he wins with level and with his hands. Excellent. Plays through the whistle. That's why he's a Lion. He stays square to his defender. So the defender doesn't have good angles to out leverage him. Cons: not ideal length. Needs more pass rush moves. Well, he's going to get those. He leaves his feet sometimes when my understanding is defense had some injuries. That's true. They did, and injuries are unpredictable, and so this is one of the leading reasons as to why I thought we would address it more.
So what you're saying is depth is important.
That's what I am saying. Not only is edge across from Aiden Hutchinson a position that needs more depth, it was a position that I thought they could get better at. And that's one of the few places on the entire roster that I could make that same claim. Interior offensive line, another one of those places. So they picked that one, obviously, over the defensive side of the ball. They'd rather be proactive than reactive. That's understandable. I still think that they were in a better spot without Ratledge and Frazier on the interior offensive line than they were across from Aiden Hutchinson. So the depth
deep
chart
this year.
Hmm?
Edge was probably the deepest position group in the sport this year.
Yeah, the draft was good for defensive. If you were a team actively looking for a defensive lineman, this was a good year to do it. The Lions.
Hey, we were.
Were we? I mean, so the Marcus Davenport side of the line, the initial thought process depth chart is Marcus Davenport, AQ Muhammad, Mitchell Agude, Ahmed Hassanein. I bet Hassanein is third and beats out Agude, who will be a practice squad player in that rotation. He is not ready yet for the NFL. He's just not. Yeah. He could be. He is the ball of clay that could be ready for the NFL. I am now starting to officially get tired of the fucking projects. I'm really getting tired of the projects.
Vaki, when you're good, you have the opportunity to do projects because you don't have to. Yeah. You can give them time, right?
And I think that we have our rosters fill of projects now.
Right.
Okay? I mean, like, here are the guys that I think that they have drafted who are projects. You have got, just reading a bunch of names here really quickly. Hassanein, right?
Right.
Broderick Martin, Ennis Rakestraw. Who else? We have
Mahogany was.
Mahogany, Corby Sorsdal, Christian Mahogany. Yeah, we just said Chris.
Who was the other offensive lineman that came from like Canada or something?
Giovanni Manu.
Manu. Yeah, he was on that list too.
That's correct, Joseph. Life is more important. Like to actually like be alive. Like the biological persistence of life. I think. I don't want to see Lions players dropping dead on the field. That's really where I'm coming from. So they have a handful of guys that are in quote unquote development. Okay. All right. Can we just take some dudes that are like fucking doubles right off the bat, like to use a baseball analogy? Can we just get a ground rule double on a third round pick who's not an embarrassment and stick him in as a backup somewhere? And not another guy that is like, oh, this is a giant ball of clay and we want to see what he looks like in year 3.
Right.
We have the roster's fill of those players. Can we just take a breath and stop molding clay? Can we just take, oh, this guy's a guy he's a football player and like he knows his assignment and like he's super smart and grit and fire and running through walls and like you can just put him out there and he's primarily a special teamer, but he's also going to be an excellent backup safety for you. I want more of them.
And that's one of the nice parts about having such a good roster is you can use your draft picks as assets to move up to get those sure things, to get those ground rule doubles.
I would love to see him start.
Because they've been doing that same process, but not for the doubles, but for the home run swings before the ball's pitched, right?
So Joseph raises a point here. So he says, even with a healthy Davenport, I have to see it to believe it. So I agree. If Marcus Davenport had played 14 games last year on the pace that he was on, he was going to have a career year. If you get that from him this year, it's a great re-signing. It's super cheap, and he will have vastly. Hey, what's up, Hatters? Davenport will miss this game. So like, and that's the fear. And then you have AQ Muhammad and Josh Pascal as your edge setters across Wayne Hutchinson. So I'm not surprised that Brad went in a direction that I thought they should go in.
Right.
But like, I think this is real risky. And like, I know that he has been asked 1,001 times, why didn't you take an edge since the draft? And he's sick of it. But like, I also think that I'm not in Allen Park. You know, I'm not in those discussions clearly, but like, I also don't think that I'm so bad at this that I can't look at the roster and be like, there might be a hole. I think right there is a spot that you could address.
Right.
Okay. So Dan Jackson, Dominique Lovett, both from Georgia. They love drafting kids from Georgia this year. Dan Jackson, he's going to be a special teamer. He's going to be a backup safety. Great. Love it. Love the pick. Dominique Lovett, I don't know, makes the roster. They might keep him just because he's going to be the other gunner on special teams other than Khalil Dorsey. Mm. But he is slot only. He's not, even St. Brown splits his time between the slot and outside. But this kid looks like a slot only. Like, I mean, or very primary in the slot. And like, he's St. Brown backup. You know, maybe he's new Khalif Raymond at some point, you know, next year. But like, this is the guy that I'm wondering, he could not, maybe he doesn't even make the roster. So,
I mean, 7th round draft pick. This is one of the, I literally just said, hey, if you're spending assets on a dude and they don't make the team, what are you even? You're not doing it right.
Mhm.
At the same time, the seventh round is so close to undrafted free agent. Those really are the types of things we're like, all right, let's take a flyer here. If he doesn't make the roster, the value of that pick was super low anyway when it comes to what the expectation is. So if he doesn't make the roster, that most sevenths don't, right? So I'm not as worried about that one. It'd be interesting to see if he does make it. Is he going to be a gunner? Is he going to be a returner? Um, I, if he's going to play wide receiver, who's he displacing?
Well, I would be. What I should say. I wouldn't be surprised if our wide receiver room see some turnover here real quick. Like, so they picked up JMO's 5th-year option. So he's going into his 4th year. So he can be on the roster for 2 years. They have
right this year, yeah, 4th and 5th.
Yep. They just drafted to Slaw. Oh, I'm not rooting for the injury either, Joseph. I mean, I'm rooting for Davenport too because, in my
That's
opinion,
how we
there's
win.
fuck all behind him. So,
yeah.
Okay, so in 2025, the wide receiver room looks like it did last year. 2026, you have JMO, no Raymond, Teslaw, no Patrick. What? Oh, and St. Brown, obviously. Okay, not a bad group, right? No depth, but not a bad group. So then what do you do? Are you going to extend Jameson? That seems to be the hot, fun thing to talk about amongst Detroit Lions media this offseason is what to do with JMO? So there's a decision
I don't think
coming.
you can answer that until probably the end of the season.
Right. Remember, they were in a relatively decent cap space, but when they picked up 5th years on Hutch and JMO, those are completely guaranteed. So that's all coming right off the top of the cap. So that's what pushed them over. If they were each extended, all that comes off because then the guaranteed year is replaced by the first year of the extension. So there's
You're also looking at if we don't extend JMO and he goes out and gets $25 million a year,
sure,
$30 million a year, that's a 3rd or 4th round comp pick that we're getting back as well.
Well, potentially. I
mean, based on like our history of signing free agents versus letting them walk, if we let someone like that walk, when was the last time we signed a free agent big enough that where it would comp that?
That's the thing. With the comp algorithm, you don't need to sign a player of commensurate value to have it cancel it out. Like there are provisions that's like, oh, you signed a dude just to sign him for like almost nothing. Like he cancels out the JMO stuff. Like
I thought it was only for free agent signings.
Yes, you have to sign an unrestricted free agent. So if the Lions signed no unrestricted free agents, possible, right?
Right.
And JMO goes out and gets 25 million, like you said, somewhere.
Right.
And then their algorithm looks like you have outgoing UFAs and no incoming UFAs. And now he's going to go into all the people who signed somewhere else as unrestricted free agents. And then that gets ranked by their ranking system, however it's done. And then he falls somewhere in that list, and then where he falls determines his compensatory value. Gotcha. So let's say it's a 4th, just for the sake of the example.
Right.
Okay. If the Lions then sign a dude, like a backup punter, it can, under certain circumstances, cancel out what Jameson was.
Or drop it down from a 4th to a 7th or something, right?
Nope. Cancel. It doesn't drop it. It wipes it out. So in order for the Lions to start developing compensatory picks, they need to have multiple people leaving in free agency. So the guys that are up for that kind of thing, I wrote this down somewhere. Where did I write it down? Oh, it's right here. Swish. Didn't do it.
And so the flowers are still standing.
Yeah. After this upcoming year, here are the players who could potentially be on their way out of the roster. Taylor Decker will have no more guaranteed money left on his deal. However, the way that like the dead cap savings stuff works, it's about 1-to-1. So I'm guessing it's this coming year in 2026. DJ Reader will be unrestricted. David Montgomery will have no more guaranteed money on his extension. Glasgow will be an unrestricted free. He will have no more guaranteed money. I believe his contract will be up, and then we have a void year to pay on it. Anzalone will be an unrestricted free agent. So that raises a question, like, do you let him leave and just extend Rodrigo or to be his successor, or do you extend him on a 1-year deal? I'm leaning toward a re-sign on that one. Yeah. Khalif Raymond will be an unrestricted free agent. Amik Robertson will be an unrestricted free agent. Levi Nwuzurike, Robin Lopez, Tim Patrick, Josh Paschal, Marcus Davenport, Keoti Owashiko, the hated Dan Skipper, and Craig Reynolds will all be unrestricted free agents. And you're going to have to let guys walk away. Yeah. But like you can draw
chunk of that is probably just going to walk.
Yeah, but like you slightly more than 50% of that are people that are going to get a contract or could get a contract in free agency that even puts them in the realm of counting as a compensatory pick. Yeah. You know, because if they sign for 1 year, $5 million somewhere, that doesn't count. That's just not enough. It doesn't hit the threshold of you're going to fall inside the top 50 players who left a team and went to another team.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. So the Lions have 5 guys that might count on some kind of compensatory pick algorithm. And that's if they let everyone go. And do you want to say right now they'll let Alex Anzalone walk into unrestricted free agency and extend Rodrigo for a couple of years coming off an ACL and just what he's been?
I mean, I don't think we're going to find that out till the end of the season.
Well, no.
Similar to JMO, like, what does that season look like? Does Rodrigo get some snaps and play really well? If so, then yeah, I think they do. I think they let Anzalone roll, and then they extend Rodrigo. But if he plays kind of mediocre or is injured again or something like that, I think maybe it's a little closer to 50-50.
You know, exactly. So, I mean, like, to me, this draft fell short in two respects. Number one, I know they got 7 players or whatever, and that's what you start with. But, like, I don't think they got enough bodies. Because this whole class seems like, outside of maybe Ratledge, this whole class seems like we picked you to play behind somebody, and we're going to see what you look like in year 2. Okay, if that's
Williams might start or be a key rotational player alongside Reader.
Yeah, I think that he will get starter level snaps, but if he gets 600 snaps, I'd be surprised.
Yeah, well, I mean, Ali McNeil will come back at some point, right? So,
right.
But until then, I think he's going to get McNeil snaps.
Well, he doesn't know what the Lions do. So, like, Levi Nwuzurike is going to be the starter. I'll bet my life right now.
You think over Williams?
I mean, I think what will happen is Levi will be out there as a 3 tech to start the season. right? And then you will have sub packages where Tyreek will come in where he's playing the same role, but only in like third and long or something, like that. Or like maybe it's something like first down, it's Tyreek and Reader. And like Twin Towers, bitch, let's go. I mean, like,
Right.
you want to run on this?
Run through this.
Try it. I mean, we'll love to see you try. And like you just may not move that, and so the Lions play a hybrid 4-3-3-4 front. And it's just determining like where does Hutch set up? Is he in a 2-point stand? Is he not? But like I am wondering if you will see some like 2-4-5 alignments out of them. Like, will we go? I mean, like Seattle's a team, they play that Michigan-based defense under Mike Morse. I don't remember the guy's name. That's the coach, Mike Morris, the coach of the Seattle. But they basically will play 2 down linemen, huge motherfuckers, with like 4 linebackers effectively, and like one of those linebackers is like a 3-4 edge.
Right.
Like which Hutch could basically be. So like, would you see something like Tyreek, Reader, Hutch on his feet, and then the 3 other linebackers shading over to one side to give like a 2-4 look? I mean, I'm here for it, but like, I think
interesting.
I mean, like that's the thing that I mean, like, so that's why I'm not as down on the Williams pick, because I'm like, okay, I get it, like, and Lee McNeil was his comp, so I'm like, well, McNeil played nose tackle his first year because there was supposed to be McNeil at nose and then Onwuzurike at 3-tech, and then Onwuzurike was just hurt for 3 years.
Yeah.
Exactly, Hatters.
Yeah.
So like, I'm here for it, but I'm also like, please no one complain when like if it's week 7 and Davenport goes down.
Right. And we don't have anybody on that
right.
side.
So I hope that I hope that you're ready for 10 games of like Al-Quadin Muhammad, who
I mean, he played okay for
stepping
up. So
I mean, but like, if we looked at his grades or whatever and like what he produced, I mean, like, are you like, like, oh, okay, here's a dude that just needed a chance?
I feel marginally better about him than I do Skipper, right? He's a backup, and I think he's kind of in the middle tier of that backup, but he's not in the upper tier. And I would prefer that he doesn't have to see the field if we can help it.
Yeah. I mean, the difference between those 2 players to me is the Lions re-signed Dan Skipper knowing that they were going to put him on the field. Not much, but he's going to see it. So
before we leave, Drew, I wanted to throw a quick breaking-ish news. The San Francisco 49ers agreed to a 4-year, $76.4 million contract with $40 million guaranteed. He is now the highest-paid tight end in football. Congratulations, George. I hope your bank account is happy. I'm sure 49ers, Kenny 49ers is thrilled about this one.
Yeah, I mean, you want to keep your, this guy might end up on the San Francisco, Mount Rushmore. Probably not. They've got a lot of great players, but like his whole life, been great. He's only the highest paid tight end by $125,000 on average.
But so, there. He's still number 1.
So like
for now,
it's not like he reset the market. He's just he dipped his toe over the line. So this guy's a bitch. I mean, like and the reason I say that is that like he's quite good.
1 year, $23 million.
Sure.
So, which is higher end for the linebacker. I don't think it resets the market or anything like you said, but he'll be prowling the backfield for the Vikings for at least this next year.
He is a real component of what makes that whole Brian Flores defense work. Yeah. So I understand why they re-signed him, and they really re-signed him. I mean, they gave him a lot of money. Are you saying Landon Jackson would have started? I think that Landon Jackson would have fallen into the role of like he'll play behind Marcus Davenport because Marcus Davenport's on a 1-year deal with the same plan that Tesla is going to have behind Patrick. That's what I would have said. But like very clear that this guy would have been your Marcus Davenport of the future. That would have been what I considered the plan to have been for if they had taken Landon Jackson, let's say in round 2 or whatever. I don't think that he would have come in right away and started as a rookie. Like the Lions have not done that much ever. I mean, Sewell. What is this? Oh, Quinn Ewers.
Oh, Texas football tweeted a picture of Quinn Ewers getting the call. It says, that life-changing call. And someone's like, yeah, truly life-changing. Went from making $2 million a year in college to $300K a year as a backup in the NFL.
Well, that's what you make when you're a 7th round pick.
I know, isn't that bizarre though? That $2 million in college, and they're like, pros is where you're supposed to get paid, right? That's where you're supposed to show me the money, and they're like, meh.
So I still don't think we really know what the effect of NIL is on both the college landscape and the professional landscape. So, but I know that if you looked at the terrible guys that get cut, I mean, let me say it like this. Every UFL starter would be an amazing college football quarterback right now.
Yeah.
And that's the difference is that, I mean, go ahead and, I mean, like, I think we have seen that most kids, because unless you're going to be a top 15 or 20 player in the NFL, that's real. Like you can probably make more in college for most collegiate players than you can on your rookie deal. But like you can't make more than that in college, like that's probably topped out. Like the college players, like I think Bryce Underwood for the Wolverines is getting like 10 million. And I haven't heard of, but I don't know that. It's not like they report those numbers for college football because there's no structure to it. There's no collective bargaining agreement. It is the Wild West. It is people dropping money off in Monopoly bags, and so we don't know. It's guesswork. So I know that like, let's just use Cam Ward as an example. Like Cam Ward played at Washington State, Miami, and there's at least one more team in there. I don't know where it was, but he's Oregon State.
He ended up at the U at the end.
He ended up at the U in like year 5, right? So like he's the number 1 pick. So this year he'll be making more than whatever Miami paid him last year, right? So, but if he works out, he has a chance to make 50 times what the University of Miami paid him or whatever. And that's the difference. And that's always going to be the difference. And there is something to be said that like these kids grew up dreaming about playing in the NFL. So like it is still the realization of a dream, even if you have to take a pay cut to do it. And who knows? Tua Tagovailoa does not have the cleanest injury history. I hope that he doesn't get hurt, but if he were to get hurt and Quinn Ewers found himself in a starting position, like, we go back to the Drew Bledsoe, Tom Brady thing again. Yeah. That's the most famous example of this. So like, do I think that Quinn Ewers is going to be the next Tom Brady? No. But it's all about opportunity.
Tom Brady was going to be the next Tom Brady either,
correct.
Right?
So that's a great way to say it.
Could happen to anybody.
That's right. So hopefully no one gets hurt. We can just get the only time in NFL history that no one got injured. And we can really see who the true champions are or what have you, but wouldn't start even if Tua was down since they got.
I bet he starts.
You're right. Zach Wilson is clearly going to beat out Quinn Ewers because Zach Wilson has done so much with his
Yes.
opportunities in the NFL.
If history is a harbinger of what's to come,
Mm,
Zach
mm,
has got it made.
yeah. I mean, I liked Quinn Ewers more than the consensus board did. And the fact that but very clearly the NFL as well, because they think that he's a 7th round pick. So
Right.
every team in the NFL passed on Quinn Ewers 6 or 7 times. So
Yeah, or more.
possibly more. He did better on the Jets than Rodgers. Wow, setting that bar real high, Danny. Nice.
I mean, in fairness, Rodgers actually played fairly well last year.
He played 5 snaps. I mean, what are we talking about?
No, that was 2 years ago. Last year he played basically the whole season and actually played fairly well. And so I disagree with Danny on that one.
Yeah, me too. So is he on the Jets still? No.
Nope. Neither of them.
Right. So I mean, ultimately you are the amount of faith that your team has in you. And so far the only person that quote unquote worked out from that 2021 quarterback class is Trevor Lawrence, and that's even debatable.
Yeah. And he was generational.
Correct. That people need, the NFL media needs to come up with another term.
Yeah.
For what they mean, because what they really mean is this guy's the best guy we've seen in 5 years, yeah. But I will say kids like Trevor Lawrence and Caleb Williams, we knew they were going to be the first overall pick in the draft for 2-3 years before they were actually picked it.
Yeah.
And it did come to pass, and if somebody was no, this, Zach Wilson's better than Trevor Lawrence, we have him number 1 on our board. I mean, it's not crazy to be we're going to go against consensus here or whatever. Arizona drafted Josh Rosen 10, then they went and they got the 1st round pick and they drafted Kyler
Williams.
Kyler Williams, and then Penix, last year, and I don't know that Cam Ward would be, I don't know where Cam Ward falls in the Trevor Lawrence, Caleb Williams, if you put all those guys in one class, where he shakes out in that group. But I'd be surprised if it was 3rd, 4th, or 5th, amongst the guys that came out in the last 4 or 5 years. But he has an opportunity, and that's one of the hardest things to get in the NFL, so once you have an opportunity, you got to make the most out of it. And he's at least got that opportunity, because Will Levis is not going to stop him.
It's kind of like the playoffs. If you can get into the playoffs, you have an opportunity to win the Super Bowl. Anything can happen. If you get an opportunity to get on the field, anything can happen. You could turn into Tom Brady. You could turn into Ryan Leaf, but you've got the opportunity. That's the key. If you don't ever see the field, you can't turn into either of those guys, right? So, he'll be one of those interesting, because I think he was a fun guy to watch too, in Texas. So that'll be an interesting backup race in Miami.
Yeah. Your sushi's burning.
Don't let the sushi burn.
Don't do that.
And I always thought that sushi was uncooked fish, so I'm not sure if maybe you're doing something.
I think that's the joke.
I have the wrong idea about sushi.
I think you've nailed it. So next week, I want to look at the Lions roster now, 90-man roster in depth, talk a little bit more about that, and then I would like to, over the next couple of weeks and or months, maybe talk about where we see that shaking out. Maybe we can update our running backs drafted in the top 10. We have Ashton Jeanty now that we can add to that list. How many guys making X amount of money can a roster support? We can revisit some of those ideas. I've got some time before I transition to my job. So hopefully we can make the most of that, and then we can figure out
a new role there. Yeah, that's cool.
We can figure out what the future of the show is. So, but good job, Mike.
Thanks. We will see everybody a week from today, 7 p.m. as always. See y'all.